So far as, y'all got that sheet? Some of the numbers, you'll see prior months were a little low so far as citations only, mind you. Because I can attest that the PD has been coming to my office and requesting warrants. And I've written well over 100 and some warrants, arrest warrants, for other than traffic citations. Talking about Class C disorderly fighting, assault, felonies, whatever the case may be. And that's not shown in this diagram.
That's this month, under this month,
For what?
the warrants.
No, total.
Okay.
Yeah, no, because, I mean, you're talking about arrest warrants. I've already signed several search warrants for the PD, blood draw warrants, emergency detention warrants. We also have, emergency protective orders when we do the magistrating at the jail that we're required to do by law. Of course, we have people, victims that come in and want removed, but we're not placing ourselves or the city in a liability issue, irregardless. So far as, overall, we have a number of new cases filed each month. We have a higher total of cases disposed than we do have coming in, which also gives us an opportunity to set up some show cause hearings, which we've also have a pre-arrest warrant hearing coming up. There's processes, that's what people don't understand with the truancy and court. With court, you have to have your open court. You do the judgment, they fail, they're non-compliant, you bring them back for a show cause. You give them another opportunity, hear them out, they might have fallen into some hard times. They default in that, and then we do the pre-arrest warrant hearing. After that, then we issue the warrant and we're done with that particular case. I won't talk to them about that, but hey, there's a warrant, you get picked up, you go to jail, you deal with it that way. And this, again, it goes with the process, and the low numbers that you see the month of February and March. Of course, we had 2 court dates that were canceled because of early voting, that they had to use the chambers. So that kind of caused a ripple effect that went back, but we're getting back on track, and hopefully we won't have any more unforeseen delays or cancellations. But like I said, there's processes that we have to take in order not to get in legal binds, especially when it comes to truancy as well. I've had a lot of times the school comes and hey, we need to do something, and I got it, I understand that, but we've kind of fallen behind because we need to get them a little early. By the time they get to high school, then we can take civil action, which judge can order suspension or denial of their driving permit. But there's a process, step 1, step 2, step 3. We can't just bring them here and go, hey, that's it. But even then, there's other steps that, we're not here to collect a fine, we're here to get compliance. And lately here, truancy's been a big issue.
Is that, Judge, is that a normal revenue stream about what you have on page 5? Is that typical?
No, that was extremely low. On the OCA report,
Yeah, page 5.
Yeah.
Additional activity.
yeah, this was the only month that was pretty low. Everything prior to that, usually on the low note, it's about 8. On the high, it's about 13.
Okay. Counsel, any questions for the judge? Okay, Judge, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Finance Director?
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Council. So, I provided everyone a quick snap of the current financials. So this is the actual budget to actuals. So on the left side, you have your actuals. On the right side, you have your budget. You have your revenue summaries year to date through, these are through March 2023, through the second quarter. So you have your revenue summary and your expenditure summary for fund, for your general fund. Same for your fire fund and for your utilities fund. And then for your fire fund and, I'm sorry, for your ARP and your motel fund. So that's currently what we're tracking. Another thing for finance is we're working on the budget for this year. So the budget, calendar, we're working on that as well. So this is all I have for now, just a really quick snapshot of what we got going.
This is, 5 months out of the year. 6 months, 6 months out of the year. And we're on track, we're within budget.
I would have to give that to you.
Yeah, this, Mayor, just to add, this is where, if you look at the summary, revenue summary is actually, we're looking pretty good, on the general fund side. The two biggest funds, of course, is the general fund and the utility fund. On the utility fund, you can see the revenue summary, I'll go to the general fund. Against that 6 month, we budgeted 5.2 million, 5.276 million is the current budget. The revenue year to date is 3.68 million. Part of that, which was fine, is, we've been, sales tax has been good to us. Sales tax has been really good. We're looking at, having a good year for sales tax this year, and anticipate having a good year for next year. James, he doesn't take a lot of credit. He's been working on the budget and also on this, the budget, and then trying to, make sure that he gives good information, or at least a summary of information regarding, where we stand now. But he's been working, a lot on, here, the short time he's been here, on, utility billing, primarily our water meters. And that's been something I think has been, he probably thinks it's a daunting task, but we're gonna get better. So you'll see that, I think you'll see some improvements in my opinion, as it relates. But to answer your question, Mayor, from the revenue and expense side, we're still sitting pretty good. I think it's financially, we're in a decent place.
Council, questions for our finance director? Okay. Anybody? James, thank you. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for indulging us. Allowed to go through those reports. Going on to item 6, item 6A, City Secretary swearing in of newly elected officials.
Crystal, can we do it over here so I can?
The boards and all.
Yeah.
I, Tiffany Belmontes,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
or affirm
or affirm
that I will faithfully
that I will faithfully
execute the duties
execute the duties
of the office of
of the office of
Councilmember Place 7.
Councilmember Place 7. Wait, no, 5.
Five, sorry. That's the duty.
Correction.
Sorry. I don't put up for more than
That's okay.
five tonight, today. I'm so sorry.
Okay, Councilmember.
Of the state of Texas.
State of Texas.
And will, to the best of my ability,
And will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect,
preserve, protect,
and defend
and defend
the Constitution and laws
the Constitution and laws
of the United States
of the United States
and of this state.
and of the state.
So help me.
So help me. Thank you.
All right, congratulations, Dan. Welcome again. All right, we're moving on to the presentations by the EMC Strategies. Folks, we have entered into agreement with a consulting firm, kind of a grant writing firm, and we're very fortunate to have Mr. Ernie Gonzalez, who's come and took the whole council to the state capitol for a very action-packed 24 hours back, I believe, in April, and took 2 council members and our city manager to Washington D.C. for a very action-packed timeframe, and he's going to report on that. So I personally feel very fortunate to have Mr. Gonzalez on our team, working to bring as much as possible to Frio and the county of Frio and the city of Pearsall. So, Mr. Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, and members of the City Council. Fred, good evening, and Bobby, our city attorney. I just wanted to give you all an update on the trip that we had to Washington D.C. last month. I want to especially thank the members of the City Council for supporting the outreach to Washington D.C. I do want to thank James Leal, the councilman, Sonia Hernandez, our councilwoman, and then Fred Reyes for supporting the trip and keeping up with the schedule that was extremely busy. And I'll go over that in just a little bit. So if we could, I'm not sure, do we have
It's on
the,
page 6 of your packet, but you need,
yeah, just so that the constituents can see that. But I did want to give an overview about what we did on May the 7th through the 12th. So we hit the ground early on Monday, on the 8th, the day after everybody arrived. The idea was to have 2 full days of meeting with federal agencies on Monday and Tuesday. Those meetings that we had with the federal agencies were specific to local needs that were tied to the federal legislative priorities, which I'll highlight here in just a little bit. On Wednesday and Thursday was when we visited with members of Congress in the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate. So the delegation again did include James Leal, Sonia Hernandez, and our city manager Fred Reyes. We also had 3 members of EMC Strategy Group, myself, and Fabio Gonzalez, who's here with us, our marketing and communications director, and our grant writer Mitchell Gonzalez, who's still currently in Washington, D.C. right now. Again, the purpose was to highlight the federal legislative priorities that were tied to economic development, housing, infrastructure, public safety, small business support, transportation, and veteran services. Our approach was bipartisan, and we took great pride in making sure that we visit with members of both sides of the aisle. To us, we didn't see a D or an R. The goal was to visit with the entire South Texas congressional delegation. As we visited with the federal agencies and also the members of Congress, we were constantly repeating our elevator speech about the needs and priorities for the city of Pearsall. The department agencies that we visited with, the federal agencies, included the United States Department of Agriculture. We visited at their headquarters. The United States Department of Justice, the United States Department of Transportation, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Small Business Administration, and the Veterans Administration. So our delegation went to each of those headquarters, and we visited with members of the administration and senior career bureaucrats that were not only listening to our story, but they were also sharing with us the available resources that are tied to the priorities. And I will give you an example. So when we visited with the Department of Agriculture, we learned about their housing programs. And I heard one of the citizens earlier talk about some of the housing needs, and the mayor had made it very clear to me, along with Fred and the delegation that was with us, that we need to do anything that we could to identify resources that can help those in need in the city of Pearsall with either home loans, home mortgages, home repairs, and we were able to connect the dots. So I'm very pleased to report that within the next 6 to 8 weeks, we're going to have an awareness campaign that we're coordinating with Congressman Antonio Gonzalez and also the U.S. Department of Agriculture to promote their housing assistance programs. And I want to make very clear that the housing assistance programs that are available through the USDA, when they talk about affordable housing, we're not talking about Section 8 housing. We're talking about housing that's within the market within this area. Whatever that amount is, the USDA will tell us this is what the citizens in this area can qualify for. So if it's at the $200,000 mark, then those are the type of mortgages that the USDA will provide to those people who otherwise could not get traditional mortgages through a mortgage company or a bank. So they will provide the education, they will assist the constituents in applying for the mortgages, and then walk the constituents through the entire process. In addition to that, there's not only the mortgage assistance, there's also home repair assistance. And I'm sure that some of the members of the city council can identify either through personal knowledge, family members that they may know, constituents they may know, elderly, disabled people, or people that need some kind of home repair within their homes. That could be maybe somebody who's disabled or elderly that need rails in their house, or ramps, or their roof is leaking, or the air conditioner's not working. There's assistance that the USDA provides that they can make available to those constituents. So just think about this. This is not going to cost the city any money. This is not going to cost the taxpayers any money. we're creating education and awareness about existing federal government programs that the constituents can apply for. So I'm excited about that. We're doing our very best to identify the low-hanging fruit, and that's one of them. And on the Department of Justice, I'm very pleased to announce that while we were on our trip, and through the patience of our city manager, we were able to successfully apply for a COPS hiring grant to seek funding for 2 entry-level officers for the police department. So I do want to thank our chief, again, our city manager, that worked with our grant writer to make sure that we met the deadline. We actually went to the headquarters of DOJ. We met with the people that run the program. We told our story. We presented our need, and we were able to apply for that grant. So, you know, it's no guarantee, but we did get a letter of support from the congressman that was sent to the Department of Justice in support of our grant. On the Department of Transportation, as I began to represent the city, one of the things that was brought to my attention was that when Highway 35 was constructed, there was a service road that was constructed, but on the opposite side of the city. And so when we went in to talk to the Department of Transportation, and every member of Congress that we visited with that was part of the South Texas delegation, we talked about the need to develop another service area on the east side of the highway that could support economic development and further development. So we were able to identify funding through a rural transportation planning grant. And before TxDOT will entertain any construction of any type, you need to have a transportation plan done. And so there's funding available that requires no local match. Again, this is if we were to be awarded the grant, it's no burden to the taxpayer, other than, you know, the preparer, the grant writer that's submitting the application, and the time that it would take to complete that application. So we are going to pursue a rural transportation planning grant, and since our DC trip, I've already had a follow-up conference call with the gentleman that we visit with at DOT and their staff and the folks on the ground in Texas. So we're going through the motions, and we're going to apply for another grant in support of transportation and infrastructure. The Environmental Protection Agency, we visited with the director of a program called the Browns Fields Program. So that program provides funding for communities to conduct a targeted assessment project where the EPA will pay for funding to conduct environmental, to review contaminated property or property that needs to be cleaned up. And so I was informed that there's a few sites within the city limits that need to be cleaned up. And so we're going to pursue the TAP program. We've already had a follow-up with the Texas-based representatives of EPA, and within the next 8 weeks, we're gonna have a representative from the EPA come join us and a representative from the Congressman's office, and we're gonna walk those sites so that they can see the sites that need to be cleaned up. Now, once the assessment is completed, then we can put in funding through the TECQ that received money from the federal government. So the assessment, there is no local matches requirement. Again, no burden to the taxpayer, other than the preparation and the time. And then once we get the assessment back from EPA, then we can pursue the funding to clean it up. And so I understand, again, there's a few properties that are going to be included in the assessment that have been already pre-identified, and we'll include that as part of our application process. When it comes to the SBA, we were able to pitch a collaborative partnership with the Small Business Administration, and we met with the head of the SBA, who reached out to the district director for SBA in San Antonio, and we're gonna work on a formal collaborative partnership with 3 separate entities that are tied to Small Business Administration. SBA itself, the federal agency, there is a subcomponent called SCORE, which is made up of retired experienced professionals that guide small business owners. And then there's a Small Business Development Center that's based at UTSA. So our idea is to, again, go after the low-hanging fruit, enter into a formal partnership that's not gonna cost the taxpayers anything, but will provide meaningful services to small business owners to help with business development, and also to help with job creation within the city limits. The last federal agency was Veterans Administration. And I'm not sure how many veterans are in the audience, or if you all know veterans, but through the help of Congressman Tony Gonzalez, we are going to bring some of those services to the city. We're gonna be coordinating with the Texas Veterans Commission to bring a mobile unit that will educate veterans about the available resources that are available for them in terms of education, housing, healthcare,